Hey, you guys. Uh, Happy full moon in Leo. It's quite revealing. I'm stunned at what happened tonight. I have a beautiful story to tell you. Um, this is kind of personal. For those of you that know, I will recap the story on how I got started with tarot. It all started back on November 8th, 2016, when I went to go vote and I was denied a ballot. On that day, I was sure to wear white. I put on my jewelry that belonged to my mom, my grandmother, my aunt, because they all passed. And I just felt like it was such a special time. I wanted them to be with me. And so when I got to my polling place, I've been going there for years, decades. And I got there and it just seemed like these people the people who've been managing my polling place, they have this running so smoothly. Just like when you go there, it's almost like a library. Things are just so efficient and people are in and out. It's really a nice, easy experience. Well, when I went in 2016, it was a bit chaotic. The people there just looked a bit flustered. They looked like they were a little overwhelmed, like too much to do. Like there was a little bit of disorder, but they were doing their best. Well, when I got there and I showed them not only my license, I showed them my voter registration card. And when that little machine was there that dialed to get an authorization code, I was denied a ballot. I wasn't able to vote. I asked for the election supervisor. They were there if I could talk to that person. And the woman was regretful in that there was no election supervisor because she was at some emergency meetings because they were having this problem all day where people would they would need a ballot and they would need a verification for a ballot and the machine would reject them. So the election supervisor kept getting called into these emergency meetings all day and she had no idea when they were going to be back. And I couldn't sit there and wait for hours on end when she would return. And so I left. I didn't vote. I was pretty furious. And then the way the whole night played out, late at night, it looks like Donald wins and he does. And I was furious because I knew something was wrong. I didn't know what. And so that's when I started my journey trying to figure out where the heck my ballot was. And it's been like nonstop sleuthing, researching ever since then. On the day of the election, November 8th, we had the largest attack by the Mirai bot. It was just extraordinary and it hit everywhere. And it's just interesting because it's hard now to find information about that Mirai, M-I-R-A-I bot net because it was scrubbed from the web. I have screenshots of the images elsewhere, as far as frequency of hits, kind of similar to the coronavirus maps, like that. And then I wanted to learn everything I could because I knew in my gut, I knew it had something to do with Russia because all the state voter rolls were hacked. And then if paying attention over the summer, I knew a lot about the things that were going on with Trump and Russia that just weren't right to me. I didn't like it. And then that's when I started sleuthing for a couple years. And then I was like, I need another tool. And then I happened to see someone share something about a political reader using tarot cards. And I'm like, what? What are those? I need those. And so around December, was it December 2019? For Christmas, I got my first set of tarot cards, my first tarot deck. And they haven't left my hand since. It has just been almost feels like 24/7 tarot has been ruling my life since then, but I don't mind it. It has really energized me. It has taught me so much, and it brings me relief because I have been full of questions for 3 years, and it brings me that relief and that insight. By the way, speaking of 3 years, you know what? We're halfway through winter with this full moon, and this is our last winter with Don Julio. How about that? We will never have to endure. Oh no, wait. It's our last full winter with him. How about that? And so that's how I got started on the tarot. And it's been awesome. I love this community. I love how this community found each other. I love the readers in this community. I love the ideas that have sprouted forth. I love how much this community has grown since May. It's just been phenomenal. It's been awesome. I love this adventure we've been on, even though it sucked. It sucks. Our lives were miserable, but it's been pretty phenomenal. And so that's how I got started reading tarot cards. And then what's happening tonight, we have a full moon. We had a full moon in Leo. And before this full moon in Leo, I finally, probably about an hour before we had to leave tonight, finally I was like, fine, I will take some cards and I'll check in with Don Julio. Because I am telling you, my hands were like itchy all day today. I was doing this and, I was just, out and about doing our stuff. And finally I gave in. And then what happened, I didn't expect to see what I saw in my first spread with him. And so I'm like, I'm just going to stay here and I'm going to keep asking more and more into what is being revealed. Because here's the thing. I knew that at the new moon in Aquarius on January 24th, I lay out cards for the lunations of what the major theme will be. So you have like a new moon. I can't remember what the theme of that card was, but I do the new moon, the waxing crescent moon, the quarter moon, the waxing full moon, waning full moon, the third quarter moon, the waning crescent moon, and then the balsamic moon. And then you have a new moon. So I pick ahead of time. The cards give me a hint about what to expect. And so when we got to the quarter moon right before the caucuses, it was the Ace of Wands. There was going to be an action. And then as we got to the full moon, it was the Seven of Wands, which meant fighting. And since the new moon, I couldn't wait. I was excited for what would happen 2 weeks later, the full moon, because the card that was drawn was the sun. The sun, how perfect it matches the astrology sign of Leo, because it means revelation. Full moons, by their nature, are revealing it, because the ancients knew this. Our farmers know this. This is why we have the Farmer's Almanac. When you plant your seeds at the new moon, they can be seeds, they can be wishes, they can be intentions, they can be plans. This is where you get your mojo, your growing power. That when you would plant, the farmers knew that when you would plant your seeds at the new moon, that is when they would yield the best and biggest crops, the most growth. So at the new moon you plant, the quarter moon is crisis point. Are these plants going to make it or not? And then at the full moon you have manifestation. You have a full moon that is illuminated, and it will reveal what was planted at the new moon. Now, it takes several lunar cycles to do this, but for some things. But essentially that's what it is. You plant your seeds at the new moon. At the full moon, those things are revealed. You have manifestation, it climaxes. So at this new moon, which is ruled by the planet of Uranus, because the sun's in Aquarius, Uranus having to do with sudden shocking news, upheaval, and I would say that this past 2 weeks have been very much that, that I knew that when we would hit the full moon, shocking things would be illuminated. Well, back to tonight, an hour before I leave, fine, I'll throw some cards, and the story was revealed to me tonight about step by step how our elections are hacked, how votes are suppressed, and how it always lands in the GOP's favor. That is what I got tonight. Just amazing. And so right before I was going to sit down and do this whole thing for you, I was like, I'm going to check in one more time. What's going on? And I decided to check in. I don't know, it was Donald or I think I checked in with Donald. And then I was like, what? He's scared of the Republican Party. So that was the video that I just shared about what was up with the Republican Party and Donald. And then I was like, Nancy's got an astrologer because she talked to someone with this full moon. And it's pretty awesome. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, oh, and one more thing I would like to add is that earlier today, before this, I think when we were just out doing stuff, I was thinking about how I have felt like having a conversation with myself, my guides, that something is definitely happening behind the scenes, and I just can't access it. It's been closed off, and it was, my guides were kind of like, yeah, there's a reason for that. You're not allowed to peek. I was like, fine, I'll let it go. And so here we are. So this was the spread that I had when I just wanted to check in quickly with Donald. I was like, oh, this card of the reading is the High Priestess. This is my card that has everything to do with elections, the whole operations, as far as Russia's involvement from beginning to end, whether it's, at a local level or a national level, and no matter what country or continent it is on, it always goes through Russia. The High Priestess, the secret behind the elections. So I was like, oh, so Donald's thinking about the elections because we have the primaries that are coming up. We've had the debates. And so his signifier about him was the Hermit. He was being very reflective and looking at stuff and investigating stuff. But I had a sense at the time that it was more like he knew in his gut there's an investigation going on. Like things are getting too close for comfort, because that's why they've been so quiet since the chaos in Iowa. I mean, they were all ridiculing the Democrats, and that's all anybody could talk about was the delays in Iowa, and then all of a sudden, whoop, silent. Because it's taken a lot longer, and the FBI, it got to a really serious level. So that's what he's thinking about. And what he's covered in, not that he's retreating. To me, this is the software thing, the malware thing. Like, every single state has had their elections hacked. And the other thing that people don't talk about are the e-polling books. The e-polling books are the things that check you in and see if you're who you are and give you a ballot. Like, I think that's the thing that denied me the ballot was the e-polling book. Nothing is talked about security with the e-polling books. And so people just don't really think there needs to be like our elections need to be secure and the machines. But when you check in, nothing is keeping it secure. So the Four of Swords represent, the swords being air and communication. That represents, for me, with elections, how long ago the elections get hacked. I mean, think about how many times we've heard about, oh, there's been a breach with this voter data, or this was breached, this was breached. Well, it was breached, but then something was inserted in there that lays dormant until it needs to be activated at a certain time in the future. So that's like what Donald's thinking about. And his challenge is himself and like the offers that he makes to people when it comes to elections. Because at the very foundation of this is he and Stub. He and his bro in Siberia, his bestie. The agreement that they made before he even ran, this is how it's going to happen. And what's crowning Donald? The White House and how he got there. Because in the past, the Trump Crime Syndicate, aka the Trump campaign, had an agreement with this type of stuff to get to the White House and the software and how they were going to do it. Because the challenge for Donald as a candidate is that nobody likes him. So how were they going to overcome that? So the Trump campaign worked with this so that they would always get good news. They'd always get the results that they wanted. Think Teflon Don. Well, how was that to happen? How do we see Donald throughout this process? He would always get the votes. He would have more power as such. He would take care of the money transactions for this whole thing to happen. And the environment was one of his Knight of Wands, his people that would go take action for him in all the states, take action. Maybe they would leave unsecured voter files. Maybe they would get people to get voter information. There's a bunch of people in every state who's doing this. Or it could be the people, the back channels into the servers of the Democratic National Committee, where their servers are hosted. There's a back channel. There's a way to hack that information. And so Donald, when I checked in with him, he, sitting there hoping that, things will work out the next elections. This is when they force like a choice on you, whether it's with drama right beforehand and you're forced into making a choice and they just pound it at you through social media. Pick me, pick me, pick me, pick me. To the point where people are just screaming about candidates. It's so ridiculous. His fear is the King of Wands. Is this angry Putin? Is this Adam Schiff? Next thing to happen, Speaker Pelosi, and the final outcome, Facebook. You know what? I don't know if you know this today. I just saw that there was another article that Facebook and the Wall Street Journal, the IRS is taking it to them because they think that Facebook owes $9 billion in back taxes because Facebook has taken a lot of its monies and brought it over to Ireland for lower taxes. I'm like, what the heck is with this? Is this to get us to be distracted so we talk about something big about Facebook before the real Facebook poop hits the fan? Keep an eye on that. And don't forget that WikiL case is still going on this week. Nobody's talking about it regarding Josh Schulte. Okay, so this was the first spread. So I wanted to know after this, what the heck is going on with the elections then through Russia? And I'll show you. Okay, so this is the second question I asked. Why is this High Priestess, why was it the card of the reading before? So I made her the signifier, and I'm talking to the High Priestess, the election manipulator, Russia. Why the heck were you the card of the reading? What are you covered in? Justice. The balance of justice. Justice. The balance of justice. The balance of what's valued. You have to remember this is the scales of Libra. Libra is ruled by Venus. Venus represents money. It represents votes. Of course, it represents justice. So if Donald was thinking he's under an investigation, the High Priestess as a function is covered in justice, perhaps the Justice Department. I would guess SDNY. The challenge for the High Priestess right now, with justice hanging over her, is how they're stealing elections, how they're getting away with this stuff over and over, and it's replicating globally. At the root of the High Priestess here, under the FOTUS, is the United States of America, the USA and her elections, and the electorate. What's crowning the High Priestess then are the plans that are developed, and they just keep progressing, and they just keep repeating them over and over and over. Because in the past, there's that Ace of Cups. Remember Lavrov? Think Lavrov in the White House in December, installing this thing. I had thought that this was like a USB or like an app or like a thing that you could attach to a cell phone or an iPhone that would allow them to communicate outside of Secret Service and intelligence agencies. But what it revealed to be, if you go back, there's 2 videos. Or standing by in Iowa. This is the thing that has to do with the communicator and what they use to transmit information to Russia. And I believe because they have a back channel, this is my hypothesis, there's a back channel to NGP Van, the Democratic servers and voter databases and proprietary information. Somehow they have access to that. And so in the past, the High Priestess is telling us, the Russian hacked elections, they used this thing. And what it leads to is, hooray, yay. Here's an offer. Here's some good news. The Knight of Cups, the people counting the elections, are saying, hey, good news, we declare this person the winner. How do we see the High Priestess as having control over the White House? Who occupies the White House? Because the environment with the High Priestess is about killing off the competition, ending and changing votes, rigging elections and changing them, a death to free, fair elections. The High Priestess, her hope is that Facebook will get the job done as far as data, communication. Facebook and Twitter are so much at the center of this, but especially Facebook. The fear has to do with the Knight of Pentacles, the people that investigate and are looking at the Pentacles. The Pentacles are votes. So the High Priestess fears the people who are empowered, who take action about votes. If you think of the Knight of Wands as being the FBI, the Knight of Pentacles can also be those that are looking at votes and trends. Or it could be the people on the ground who get caught and flip on the High Priestess. And so the High Priestess says, next steps with the elections is, I've solidified a bond with you, Don Julio. You're mine. Grab him by the Don Julio. Because the final outcome is that the opposition has been cornered, they've been silenced, and they're trapped. So Donald, you owe me another favor, right? So that was step 2, which led to, I wanted to know, why is this the final outcome every single time? Tell me about entrapment with the opposition. And that's part 3. Okay, so this is part 3. Remember, I got to part 3 because I had to know, how is it that the High Priestess, the thing that hacks elections, that is based in Russia, How does that lead to the Eight of Swords, the opponent that is entrapped? Well, that's what this is about. So the card of the reading here now is candidate Donald. His opponent needs to be entrapped. And here he is covering his opponent, the Knight of Cups, because of everything he has had to offer everyone to make sure that he can get this opponent's data, he can get their family's information, he can get local data information, people to look through all of archived anything, any kind of dirt they can get on this person. And Donald is making promises to those people. I'll do this for you, but you have to be loyal. He's covered in his opponents. Because the challenge for him is nobody is allowed to find out about Trump Russia, or else he's screwed. This is the whole Mueller investigation related Trump Russia stuff. That's the Trump Russia agreement. At the basis of this stuff is data. Data that they harvest, data that they scrape, whether it's from Facebook or Twitter or voter rolls that they've had sudden breaches of voter information. How many times have you heard that? This is also the thing that develops the propaganda that they spit out, and they micro-target people with data and information, and they know how you're reacting to stuff when you're on social media. So the very basis of this is data and how they entrap an opponent. Because what's crowning the opponent, bury them. Bury them no matter how they're done. We just have to finish them off no matter what. We're going to end them, take them out. Because in the past, you know what this Knight of Wands is? It's all that polling that shows that Donald cannot win the election. There is sound evidence polling how unpopular he is, and he cannot win the election. So that leads to having to attack the U.S. electorate in their elections. So the person who's entrapped, how do we see them? Well, nostalgia. The Republican Party gets everything on them from the past. They talk to their people to get stolen records. Here, go get me some stolen records, please. Stolen data. And the environment is one that is this plan that they keep replicating over and over, and they need help overseas to do it. And the hope is that when they get someone entrapped, that the masses, the electorate, will rise and be like, I can't vote for that person. Are you kidding me? This is the reverse psyops that they commit on us. This is called how they weaponize your own data, your own information against you as a voter. Get you to rise and stand up and vote for someone who really vote for someone else. But the fear is they won't be able to successfully finish what they've started, like in 2018. And so what happens is their next steps to create this Eight of Swords person. Now you have another person, another candidate, the Hanged Man. Either it's this person who's caught, or it's the pseudo candidate that they want you to vote for, because now you have a new perspective of that other opponent that Donald believes he can beat. So now we have two different types of candidates. Either this Eight of Swords person is caught as the next steps, or the person that they want you to vote for, there's a new perspective about them, and they know how they're going to beat them because they have the data. And the final result then, also, so this is about changing opinions as well. Changing opinions. So maybe you won't show up and vote. That's another way, final result, to suppress the vote. So if Donald can't beat them, they're going to get people not to show up to vote, or they're going to do something with people who are voting, their information, so they get flagged and they don't get to vote. So they not only entrap the candidate, but the voter gets entrapped too. Whether it's through psyops, changing minds, or weaponizing information against you, you don't get to vote for the person who you've been wanting to vote for. So that's step 3. Step 4, I'm going to continue later because this is getting really long. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 9 parts. It's so fantastic. Okay, thanks you guys. You know what to do. If you like this video, please subscribe, click like, share it. And I hope you enjoy this. I was so relieved to get this tonight. Thanks.